Can anyone join the Navy Federal Credit Union? No. But you may be eligible without ever serving in the military. It is a distinct possibility. Veterans, Department of Defense personnel, immediate family members, and even certain household members may still qualify to join Navy Federal Credit Union. Let's find out whether one of those membership doors is open to you. Now, everybody at one time or another has heard about how great the Navy Federal Credit Union is. A lot of the programs, a lot of that they support members, especially entrepreneurs. If you have an opportunity to be able to want to get some good help, support, Navy Federal Credit Union loves entrepreneurs. They love supporting entrepreneurs. And then, of course, a lot of people, they're known for their very generous credit card programs, provided you have the credit. Now, Navy Federal Credit Union is known for offering its members many other things as well. Of course, they offer checking and savings accounts like pretty much every other credit union does. They offer credit cards. I just mentioned how popular those are a moment ago. But they also offer good auto loans, mortgages, personal loans, business banking. I told you they love entrepreneurs. Certificates and other financial products and programs that some credit unions don't offer at all. Now, because of all of that, social media is filled with videos about how to get into Navy Federal. We can get you in Navy Federal. Navy Federal is great. Now, some of that information is accurate, but some of it is outdated. Because I did some research, and some of the stuff that I previously knew about Navy Federal, I found out there were some changes as well. So in my research for doing for the information for this video, I got set myself straight on some stuff. Now, some of the advice, besides being outdated, is plain wrong, because a lot of it encourages people to misrepresent military relationships, family relationships, household information just to get into the credit union. Don't do that. Don't do that. Navy Federal has a defined field of membership for a reason. You either qualify through one of the eligible categories or you don't qualify. There's lots of other credit unions out there. It may not be the same as Navy, but I am of strong opinion for the most part. Most credit unions are great, and you'll find that the relationship with most good credit unions will be one that'll serve you far better than most major bank account relationships, because their mission is a little different from bank. Bank is about profit, especially when they're public banks and the shareholders. With credit unions, their mission is primarily the members, so you want to be a member. It's like a club, right? That's why they call it a member. Now, today I'll explain who can join Navy Federal Credit Union, how veterans qualify, which family relationships count, and of course, which ones don't, how household member eligibility works, whether a deceased relative can establish eligibility, which Department of Defense employees can qualify, and the contractors, and what information do you need to get eligibility. Now, I could talk a little bit about how to open the membership, but I think you'll get most of that better information by going to the website. Now, keep in mind, of course, membership alone doesn't guarantee any type of credit approval as well. Always got to have the credit piece. So, if you want, stay to the end for the complete eligibility checklist. So, first question everybody will ask, just to set the record straight, can everyone join Navy Federal Credit Union? No, but I'm going to be clear that eligibility is broader than what many people think. Most people say, oh, you either were a veteran or not, or your parent was a veteran. But unlike a traditional bank, credit unions, they serve the members. Navy Federal is no different. Their members being our veterans out there Thank you guys for your service. I can tell you I got 3 brothers. All 3 of them served in the military. And I thank them for their service. Think about it this way. Because I was trying to think how I want to say this. All right. Of course, current members can join Navy Federal. Current military members. So if you're on active duty, you can be a member. That's obvious. Veterans and military retirees, obviously they can be members. Certain Department of Defense personnel, and I talk a lot about this because we actually have a Department of Defense, a DFAS office here in downtown Cleveland, where I am located. So I talk to many people who work there, and most of them are already Navy Federal Credit Union members. But here's the thing too, those first 3 people I named, their immediate family members are also eligible to be in Navy Federal Credit Union, and eligible minors connected to current members. So there's minors, so you can get them started and get them in now, and then they'll all, when they reach 18, they'll already be an established member, hopefully with the relationship being established and being at least well underway to being established. Now, you don't have to only be in the Navy. It can be any veteran. Because a lot of people think, oh, it's because it says Navy that you have to be only in the Navy and the other branches of service don't count. Nope. You could be Army, Air Force, Marines. So I wanted to eliminate that myth or misconception right away. Eligible members can come from every branch of the United States Armed Forces covered by Navy Federal membership guidelines, well, their rules. You do not necessarily have to have served personally either. Your relationship with that eligible person may provide you that membership connection. So, you don't have to only be in the Navy. It could be any of the branches. Now, for active duty eligibility, of course, again, every branch, not just the Navy, Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, National Guard, and I forget about the newly formed Space Force. So if you get served in any of those, Navy Federal Credit Union, you good. Now, the eligible military categories included within that is anybody that's in the delayed entry program, anyone that works in certain Department of Defense officer candidates and ROTC people. So some of you college people that are college guys or college folks that are in the ROTC can get in now. Department of Defense reservists, military retirees, and annuitants. So if you retire from the military, you receive an annuity, you automatic. So no, you don't have to be on a Navy ship right now. The name, the reason why it's called the Navy Federal Credit Union, because I actually was curious, like, okay, if it's why is it the Navy? It has more to do with the credit union's history, not any kind of rule limiting membership to Navy. It's just, part of their history. If you currently serve in any of those categories I just talked about, the eligible ones, you can generally apply directly based on your own status. Of course, veterans can qualify. You don't have to be on active duty. The membership, emphasizes that don't matter how long they served, doesn't matter, which branch they are. Like I said before, you may be asked to provide information or documentation to support your status. Potential documentation for those of you out there that been in the military, we already know about that DD 214, but there's also other acceptable records that they can take as well. Now, you never want to assume that the credit union will never request proof since simply because that initial online application will accept you right away, just based on the information you input. Because you can go in, and you can input it now, tell the story, and then they'll look to qualify it later. Hence my comments earlier, because there's a lot of folks out there that are telling people, if you go in and you put in this and you just tell them your status is this, it'll get you in. And then then they're not telling you that they may have to verify this stuff later, and you'll end up losing that membership anyway. Because they generally review the eligibility after the account is open. And so when they request the documentation, you have to respond quickly and truthfully. And you definitely don't want to purchase, to edit, or manufacture military documents, because there are people out there that tell you they can get you in Navy Federal Credit if you join their program, and part of their program is they sell you a fabricated document, a fabricated DD-214 or other documents to get you in the credit union. And it becomes a catch me if you can scenario. Anybody that know that movie about the check forger, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. But anyway, that financial relationship built on false information is not a credit strategy. It's not a funding strategy, and it's not a banking relationship building strategy. Now, of course, if you want more practical information about credit unions, banking relationships, and credit readiness, as well as funding opportunities, I suggest you join my school community, Credit Renovators Mortgage Ready Network. Now inside there, you'll see the link in the description. Inside of there, we focus on helping consumers and entrepreneurs build stronger credit and better financial foundations so that you can get you that dream home or build that dream business. Like I said, the link is in the description. But enough about that right now. Let's get back to talking about the membership path, and the one that people overlook: family eligibility. So right out the gate, immediate family members are eligible to join the Navy Federal Credit Union. Immediate family is parents, grandparents, spouse, siblings, children, adopted children, stepchildren, and grandchildren. So if you have any of those connections, you don't have to do anything but apply. You just have to prove it, just like you would in any other eligibility. So you have to be concerned about trying to cheat, lie, cheat, and steal to get in there, when that's a lot of area. I mean, I was surprised when I checked on this and found out that stepchildren and adopted children were included in that. Grandchildren, I was a little bit surprised, but not really. I saw enough of those. But yeah, the adopted children, the stepchildren, that's great. I mean, because I believe that those are family members just as important as any of these other relationships. Now, if the qualifying family member already belongs to the Navy Federal Credit Union, you may be able to join through their membership. Now, of course, Navy Federal, when I check the guidelines, they say that applicants using a sponsored member would just need to provide the sponsor member's last name, their Navy Federal access number, or their certain alternative identifying information. You'd have to look at that, because they don't really elaborate on that, because they want to make sure people's privacy and security is good. You would want to know the sponsor's date of birth and the applicant's relationship to the sponsor. Now, you never want to post the sponsor's access number on social media or send it to any strangers. That's crazy. It's just as private and important as your social security number. You always want to treat that number as any other sensitive account information. Like I said, social security number. And you want to understand that what immediate family list does not expressly exclude. Now, it does not list aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, or friends who live with someone else, or co-workers, of course. Now, one of these people could still matter if another qualifying member or household relationship exists. Because like it could be, like say it's an example that your aunt or your uncle adopted you. So they were biologically, they're your aunt and uncle, but maybe your parents passed away and then the aunt and uncle adopted you as their own. So although they're biologically your aunt and uncle, they could also be your adoptive parent. Your cousin could be an adopted sibling, because of, say, if your aunt and uncle adopted you, they had children. Your children are biologically your cousin, but they're also your sibling. You may be able to go that route. So my point is this: if you can explain it and it makes sense to Navy Federal, then I would say explain it and let them make the call. But of course, being your cousin or aunt and uncle by itself is not the same as being listed as an immediate family member. When uncertain, contact Navy Federal when you apply. Now, this is one that often comes up. What if that veteran that you have the connection with is deceased? You're still eligible. You still may be eligible. Navy Federal says you still qualify when the veteran member is deceased by asking for documentation showing that the deceased family member would have been eligible had they still been alive. And then, of course, you still want to document your connection to do all of that. Now, you can always, if need be, you can contact, as a family member of the deceased, you could contact the government and get a copy of their DD-214 to use that to prove the eligibility there. Now, that matters if your parents served, if your grandparents served in the military, if your spouse served. If your child served and your sibling served, those would matter as well. Now, but you don't want to automatically assume that you're ineligible because they never joined the Navy, Navy Federal Credit Union. If they never joined the credit union and before they died or they're no longer living, you always want to contact Navy Federal and ask what documentation would be acceptable for the specific relationship and situation that you're looking at. So keep in mind that the military records can sometimes be requested through official government channels when appropriate, but the process and authorized access depend on your relationship and the circumstances. So keep that in mind. May take a little bit of work, but if you can make that eligibility stick, if you can make that connection and you can become a member of the credit union, that may be sufficient. And, as I think about it, I'm wondering why I never joined. Because, again, I got 3 brothers in the military. And so I'm eligible to join. I'm kind of thinking about it now that I'm thinking about it. Okay. Now, let's talk about a little switch from the immediate family to more of the household membership and all of that. So, a roommate may qualify, but it's not just a roommate alone. Okay. So, Navy Federal Credit Union cares about household members. Now, they could be eligible of the person if the person is a military personnel, Department of Defense personnel, or a actual credit union, Navy Federal Credit Union member. Now, this is frequently misunderstood, and I'm gonna admit to you that I was even a little confused on this one until, again, I read up on it for the purposes of researching for this video. Now, household membership does not mean you can borrow a stranger's address and say, oh, I'm gonna say I live where you live so I can get eligibility. It generally involves a legitimate shared household relationship. And that sort of kind of falls into that domestic partner thing, but it's not just domestic partner. So if you're trying to get into Navy Federal and you're trying to get eligibility and you're thinking about this path, do not change your address temporarily to become eligible. Don't claim to live with someone when you don't actually live with them. Don't pay a stranger for sponsorship. Hey, there's people out there, that's part of their program. They say they're doing a lot of these things to sell you eligibility, but all they're really doing is selling you a path to fraud. Don't use an address without permission. So don't say, okay, I got a friend, he was in the military, I'm going to use his address to do this, because again, that's fraudulent. And don't submit any other type of false household information to try to get eligibility. I know you wonder, why am I telling you not to do things? I'm pointing out that a lot of folks out there are charging people, and they say, I got a way to get you eligible. And these are the things that they're trying, that they plan on doing if they get your money. And then if they manage to get you an eligibility and you join the credit union, understand that there are consequences and repercussions to that. Now, think about this. Of course, the credit union is going to request information, but if you legitimately share residence with an eligible member, all you got to do is contact the credit union to confirm what information they would want from you to verify that. Now, if your friend lives in another state, they cannot necessarily make you eligible by merely sending you a referral link. If you're in one state, they're in another, then you can't possibly be sharing households, right? Because any referral that a member gives you cannot override the actual membership requirements. So keep that in mind. So, Department of Defense civilians. Nope, you don't have to wear a uniform to be eligible. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, Navy Federal offers membership to DOD civilians, people who never served in the military, but they work for the DOD. Now, the current eligibility requirements for that is DOD civilian employee, of course, a U.S. government employee assigned to the DOD or any of their actual installations or sites, DOD contractors assigned to the U.S. government site, a DOD civilian retiree or annuitant. So if you used to work for the DOD or you used to work as a contractor, but keep in mind, government contractor is not unlimited. Certain contractors are eligible, others are not. When you work for any company that happened to have worked for, have a government contract at some point, doesn't automatically establish that eligibility. So that one is conditional. Again, best thing to do is contact them. So you got to make sure that the relationship fits the credit union's stated criteria. So if you are a contractor, this is how you kind of determine whether you may be eligible, or at least easily determine if you're not. You want to make sure that you determine whether your employee is an actual DOD contractor or not, whether you are assigned to a qualifying installation or the site that you're at. So if you work at a site that makes you eligible, you want to make sure you're clear on that. And then, of course, you want to make sure you know whatever Navy Federal's doc requirements are to establish your eligibility. We talked about that already. And whether your current or your former status satisfies the membership rules. Okay. Do not select DOD contractor on the website when you're applying, merely because it appears to be the easiest option to get you on the application. Your actual employment should genuinely fit the category. Now, membership. Well, let's talk about the minors first. The eligible children and grandchildren that can join the credit union, you want to consider that, because it'd be good to get them started in a banking relationship. But like anything else, we want to get them started on the right foot, not on the wrong foot. So the credit union allows eligible existing members who are parents, grandparents, guardians to establish minor memberships for their children and grandchildren. Now, this includes adopted children, like I mentioned before, and stepchildren. Now, the minor membership can help a young person begin learning how savings work, how deposits work, digital banking, managing a debit card, and developing good financial habits, and all those other things I talk about in my financial literacy discussions. But remember, opening a credit union membership does not automatically establish consumer credit scores, because you got to actually borrow for that. The deposit accounts are obviously different from credit accounts. Now, a minor generally needs an appropriately reported credit account or another qualifying credit relationship before consumer credit gets started. But again, that's another story. This membership is intended to be your banking foundation, or in this case, the minors, their banking foundation, not instant credit. And that's what a lot of people think. They want to join Navy Federal Credit Union because they think it's going to help with their credit. This is just a bank account. You got to establish the relationship, and you still got to have the credit criteria. Then the key is, once you do that, what they offer is favorable. Just being in the credit union in and of itself is not a credit play. It's part of a credit play, but you got to do the rest to be creditable. Bankable. I'll say bankable. So let's talk about what you actually need to join. That's the part I figure you guys want to know. So before you even start bothering with the application, you want to make sure that you have, obviously, your Social Security number, card as well, your current address information, your driver's license, or any other government-issued ID. Government-issued ID. I'll say that again. Okay. A credit card or bank account and routing number to fund the account, because money got to come from somewhere. Okay. And I don't know why they have credit card on it. Personally, I wouldn't tell you to use your credit card to deposit on your bank account unless you're going to immediately pay that back. Of course, you want to have that information about for a joint owner if you plan on opening a joint account. And then you want information about the sponsor member when applicable. Now, to establish and maintain your membership, Navy Federal currently requires a membership savings account with at least $5 in it. Now, that $5 represents your share in the credit union. And so depending on how you qualify, Navy Federal may also request military documentation, employment verification, sponsor member information, proof of family relationship, proof of shared household, documentation concerning deceased service members, so on and so forth. Now, you generally apply by online and by phone, or you can go into a branch. No big deal there. As I said before, keep in mind, membership is not credit approval. Opening an account does not guarantee a $25,000 Navy Federal Credit Union like a lot of folks online would lead you to believe. And if I have to say, it's probably one of the biggest financial myths surrounding Navy Federal. Not saying it's not a good place to go, but they're selling you on stuff that is not part of the benefits. There are lots of benefits for joining Navy Federal, but that is not that guarantee of a big credit card is not one of them. Joining the credit union does not guarantee approval for a credit card, an auto loan, a mortgage, a personal loan, a business account, a large credit limit, or a low interest rate loan. These are all credit considerations. Membership just guarantees that you can apply to them for their program versus somebody else's credit card or auto loan or mortgage, etc. The membership does give you the right to access and give you the ability to apply for their eligible products. It does not require Navy Federal to approve any and all applications. When they review your credit application, they consider the same factors that other lenders do. Your credit reports, your credit sources, your income, your existing debt, your payment history, recent inquiries, employment information, ability to pay, all of those things, relationship with the credit union, of course, and specific brand product underwriting requirements. Now, a new checking account with a $5 balance is not a secret path to a $25,000 credit limit credit card. It's not. That's not how it works. But you do want to use this $5 balance as the start of building a legitimate banking relationship. So you want to manage your accounts responsibly, and then you want to be able to build credit and apply for credit that fits your financial profile and your needs. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Now, Navy Federal also cultivates a business relationship because, again, they have a business membership because, as I said, Navy Federal is famous for loving entrepreneurs and new business owners, startups. So if you want a Navy Federal business membership, you must qualify for the individual membership first. So you can't, so again, a lot of people, they try to use this as, they talk about it as some sort of workaround because, like I said before, they're mentioning starting a membership to get the $25,000 card, and then they say you get the $25,000 card. If you do it on the business side, it's a $50,000 card with that same $5 membership, except now it's a business one. And if you can't get in as an individual, you're going to try to get you in as a business. You can't because you got to get the individual first to even be considered for the business account. Just keeping that clear. So, Navy Federal specifically states that all owners must be individual members with accounts in good standing before they can even apply for business membership. Now, the business application also requires your business formation documents. You know the usual, you know the drill, LLC, EIN, any other certifications depending on what your business are. EIN, tax identification, owner information, percentage, name, and all that stuff. Beneficial ownership, because you might be principal, but do you have partners with 10% or some percentage of ownership? Do you have all your licenses, like I mentioned? Do you have additional documents based on future structure and required opening deposits? Now, of course, the personal Navy Federal membership does not automatically create a business one. It's a separate process, additional process with separate and additional eligibility considerations. You have to complete the separate business member process, and the business membership doesn't guarantee business credit or funding any more than the personal account guarantees any credit or funding. So, having said that, there's a quick eligibility checklist. I'm not going to go through it here, but it's a lot of the same questions that we talked about with the eligibility requirements. So you could read that. Now, if you want to learn how banking relationships, credit profiles, income, and debt affect your ability to qualify for financial products, I recommend and I invite you to join my school community, Credit Renovators Mortgage Ready Network. And with that, we focus on practical credit education, mortgage ready credit, business funding readiness, and creating stronger financial opportunities for you and your potential business. No fake membership hacks, no guaranteed approvals, no instructions on how to misrepresent your military or family connections to get you in, and none of that BS. So, is a link in the description here that invites you to join us. When you enter, I just ask that you introduce yourself and tell us your biggest financial goal for the next 6 to 12 months. And then you can look and see what other folks posted. We're a community, so we help each other. We give recommendations. We give suggestions. So take advantage of that, especially if you're trying to work on your credit on your own. You're trying to build on your own. Just a lot of resources to help you get where you're trying to get. So, can anybody join the credit union? Nope. But you can still qualify based on the things I talked about. Now, and of course, if your qualifying relative is deceased, you still got to end on that. So, when in doubt, check with Navy Federal directly. They can guide you. They want you as a member if you're eligible. And if you're not eligible, they want to clear the air for you. If there's a possibility that your eligibility could change in the future, you could tell them about that as well. You want to provide accurate information, and of course you want to maintain the required savings account, but I ain't getting into that. You want to build a relationship responsibly, and like any other relationship, you want to start out with honesty and then go from there and have good intentions. Now, in my next video, I'm going to talk to you and explain, well, not in my next video, but in a future video, I'm going to explain like what to do after joining Navy Federal. Now, this one I got to do a little research because I'm not a member. So I have some friends who are members. I'm going to talk to them and see about best practices, about what you should do once you do join. And if any of them have mistakes that they made, and so that you can avoid them before you apply for credit, because I'm going to show you how to have it so that Navy Federal can get to you some of those benefits that they are famous for. I want you to click on that video when it appears and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and like and share these videos with people who may want to know this information. And I'm really asking you guys because I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so YouTube will really put it out there to more people because I want a lot of people to benefit from this. And so if you do those things, I hate to ask people too much, but if you subscribe to my channel, share videos with folks that can enjoy that, and invite them as well to join my community. If you guys want to get mortgage ready, get funding ready, we can definitely help you with that. So remember, your membership can open the door for you, but your financial profile still determines what happens when you walk through. I'll see you in the next video.